This is a fitting place to pay tribute to the excellent relations between Côte d'Ivoire and the World Bank, represented by Mr. Jean-Philippe Prosper, Vice President for Africa, Latin America, Caribbean of the IFC, Mr. Wamser, Vice President of MIGA, and Madali Tal, the World Bank Country Director, West Africa. Allow me also to warmly welcome all the corporate managers who have accepted to take part in this luncheon, despite a schedule that we know particularly busy at this time. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the country hosting you today, Côte d'Ivoire, has an estimated population of 23.8 million inhabitants and is the largest economy in the West African Economic and Monetary Union. With 8 countries, we have the same currency and about 100 million people. Côte d'Ivoire accounts for 40% of GDP in the West African and Monetary Union and is, according to the year, the third or the second largest economy of ECOWAS country, which include 15 countries and 300 million inhabitants. Côte d'Ivoire, as mentioned earlier, is the world leading producer of cocoa, the leading African cashew producer, and the world second largest producer of this product after India. The leading African rubber producer, but also a major producer of palm oil, pineapple, banana, and so on. There is no need to mention that Côte d'Ivoire has a high agricultural potential for other crops, such as rice, fruits, and vegetables, and cotton. The country is also endowed with substantial natural resources, including oil, natural gas, iron ore, gold, manganese, nickel, and platinum, diamond. Well, and I've been told that we also have scandium. Do you know what is scandium? Okay, it's a rare mineral. It's used for plane. And I've been told when I was in Canada just 1 week ago that we have the largest scandium ore in the world. So come and see that in Côte d'Ivoire. In addition, Côte d'Ivoire has significant economic infrastructure, including 6,500 road network of paved roads, which is the largest in the sub-region. We have 2 high international performing ports. The autonomous port of Abidjan is the largest port in West Africa and the third in Africa after the ones in Durban and Lagos. And the port of San Pedro, which is the largest, is the first cocoa exporting port in the world. We have 3 international airports in Abidjan, Bouaké, and Yamoussoukro, but also a good national communication network. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in economic terms, it should be noted that the fundamentals choice made by Côte d'Ivoire from its independence on August 7, 1960, are as follows. Economic liberalism, opening up the house to the outside world, making the national and international private sector the engine of economic development. These courageous choices at the time of African independence helped achieve an economic growth rate averaging 7% over the 20 first years and hosted Côte d'Ivoire to the top position of WEMU economy and make a major port of entry to the ECOWAS region. From the 1980s, particularly following changes in the international environments, you know, there was oil price shocks, the drastic fall in price of agricultural commodity, and the sharp rise in international interest rates. Côte d'Ivoire was confronted with economic crisis that led the country to resort to several structural adjustment programs. This adjustment was supplemented by the devaluation of the CFA franc in 1994 followed by deep structural and sectoral reforms to further liberalize the economy and improve its competitiveness. Following these major reforms, Côte d'Ivoire began to revive economic growth rates sustained by an average of 6% between 1995 to 1999. But from 1999 to 2010, political crisis slowed these economic dynamics. Thus, since His Excellency Alassane Ouattara has been assuming his function of head of state of Côte d'Ivoire in mid-2011, significant actions have been undertaken in three main areas, namely peace and security, national reconciliation and social cohesion, reconstruction and economic recovery. In economic terms, these actions helped to achieve very good performance and result in an economic growth rate of 9.8% in 2012, estimate 8.7% in 2013, according to the IMF, and for 2014, the project rate is 8.6, according to the IMF mission, who was in Côte d'Ivoire in September 2013. But you know that as far as the government is concerned, we want to have a double-digit growth in 2014. We have some discussion on that with the IMF. These rates are among the highest in Africa, even the world. In effect, since mid-2011, these results have been obtained through an acceleration of structural and sectoral reforms to stabilize and improve the macroeconomic framework and strengthen the competitiveness of our economy. These reforms mainly aimed at reducing the time and cost of all economic initiatives, securing and simplifying administrative procedures relating to private investment. In this respect, I would like to remind you of the main actions, which included adoption of a new code and more attractive investment code in force since June 2012, which provides greater benefits to investors. Establishing a one-stop shop for business formalities with the aim of facilitating business creation within 48 hours, issuing investment approval within 21 days, and facilitating access to industrial sites. Establishing of the commercial courts of Abidjan since October 2012 to facilitate the settlement of disputes between private sector actors. Reducing the cost for starting up a business in Côte d'Ivoire, which was decreased from US dollar 1,222 to US dollar 374. Creation of a one-stop shop for foreign trade to streamline imports and export procedures. Passing of a Competition Act to curb anti-competitive practices. Establishing an institutional and legal framework to promote the development of basic infrastructure for the economic emergence in the context of public-private partnerships. Revision of sector-specific codes like electricity code, mining code, petroleum code, telecommunication and information technology codes. Establishment of a private-public sector bipartite dialogue committee. Establishment of a high authority against corruption. Passing a law on the executor of adjudication decisions and implementing a new privatization program after those of 1995 to 1999. I'm particularly pleased to note that Côte d'Ivoire increased its ranking as told by the World Bank. I won't give you the figure, but if you like it, I will do it later on. These actions aiming to improve the business environment continue in the context of doing business and the Millennium Challenge Cooperation programs. The aim of the government is namely to increase largely global investment from 13.7% of GDP in 2012 to 19.1% in 2013 and to 25% in 2015 by increasing the contribution of the private sector to 65 to 70%, up from 64% in 2012. The government is in this way preparing the conditions for a return to the capital market in order to capture resources to accelerate investment. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, promoting private investment through significant improvement in the business climate aims at making the private sector the main driver of economic growth. Proud of its renewed dynamism, the Ivorian economy offers many business opportunities. They relate in particular to the priority sectors such as agriculture. In addition to the development of cash crops like coffee, cocoa, cashew, rubber, oil, palm, banana, cotton, and so on, the focus will be on food crops to achieve food self-sufficiency and make Côte d'Ivoire the ethic of the sub-region, especially in the rice sector, where major projects have been developed to increase production through public-private partnerships. The agricultural sector has the National Investment Program, is a total cost of $4 billion, financed for 60% by the private sector. Another sector is the mining and energy, with the goal of making of Côte d'Ivoire a major mining country, ultimately endowed with a leading steel industry, a major country enjoying self-sufficiency in electricity production, but also a net exporter of electricity power in the sub-region, with doubling the capacity from 1,500 megawatt to 3,000 megawatt. Industry to increase the rate of processed agricultural products, including coffee, cocoa, rubber, cotton, cashew, fruits, vegetables, and to diversify the industrial fabric by promoting light industries. Another sector, economic infrastructure, to strengthen the competitiveness of the Ivorian economy and transform Côte d'Ivoire into a logistic hub through developmental projects in the area of roads, highways, ports, airports, railways, electricity, telecommunication, information technology, and communication. Housing and urban planning to absorb the housing deficit estimate at more than 500,000 units, with new needs of more than 50,000 units added per year. Health, with the aim of developing a generic pharmaceutical industry to meet national needs and also those of the sub-region market of over 300 million people. This may need to build up Côte d'Ivoire as a sub-regional hub of hospital services. Investment needs for the different sectors amount to $22 billion over the period of 2012 to 2015, of which $9 billion for 54 public projects and $13 billion to 60 private projects. All these advantages and business opportunities foster a win-win partnership between the national and international sector, private sector, and Côte d'Ivoire. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of my remarks, I would like to reiterate our sincere and heartfelt thanks, as well as the gratitude of the Ivorian government to the World Bank Group, in particular to IFC, and also to all our guests of the meeting of today. Finally, I would like to express to each of the personalities in attendance our deep desire to have you in our midst in Abidjan during the next edition of the Great Invest in Côte d'Ivoire Forum, IC 2014, due to be held from 29th January to the 1st February 2014, under the central topic, the private sector as a key driver of a successful regional integration. 4 ECOWAS countries are guests of honor at this forum, namely Burkina Faso, Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria. Burkina Faso and Senegal will be represented by their prime ministers, Ghana and Nigeria by the vice president. We hope to host about 3,000 investors in Côte d'Ivoire from all the 5 continents. So well, see you soon in Abidjan. Thank you again.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.